Welcome to Clienting, your place to get information about legal marketing and client development. This is Kelly Street, Marketing Director for Attorney Sync.
And this is Gyi Kelly, one of the founders of Attorney Sync.
Hello, Mr. Gyi Kelly.
Hello, Kelly Street.
I am super excited that today we get to kind of harken back to a former episode where we talked about values, and we get to do it again today.
Very important stuff here. Big impact on your relationships with clients. So listen in, and we have a great guest from a firm that I've come to know and respect as one of the, I look at them as kind of setting the standard. Both Jordan and Patrick are really out there doing things both in their local community, but really across the wider, more lawyer community. But really impressive stuff. So we're really excited to have Jordan with us today. Jordan, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and then we can dive in.
Hi, my name is Jordan Couch. I am an attorney at Palace Law in Tacoma, Washington. We do plaintiff side workers' compensation and personal injury work, so helping out the injured however we can. And I'm also the firm's cultural ambassador.
Oh, I am so jealous of that title. I have to say, I have a great job and great title at Attorney Sync, but cultural ambassador is just like the most fluffy, feel good title. But for you guys, it actually means a lot.
It does. And I'll tell you that it actually is a really fun, fluffy title to have. And the work behind it is really fun as well. You know, my job started about 2 years ago now when the management team got together and kind of identified what the mission and the values of our firm is. And as they did that, they wanted someone to embody that and help promote that both within the firm and outside the firm. And they turned to me, which was a nice honor to have bestowed upon me as the person who embodied this and could do the job well. So my job as the cultural ambassador is both to kind of promote Palace Law for its core values outside the firm and let people know about the things that we're doing. And then also within the firm, I, remind people what it's about and encourage conversation around our core values on a daily basis so that everyone kind of is engaged with that. And it's not just something we say and, set aside for later.
So that's great. And I tend to represent the voice of the skeptic and cynic for some of our topics on this podcast. And so I'll do that now. But tell the average lawyer who's listening, why this stuff matters and kind of how you guys came to recognize the importance of it. Was it something you brought from prior experience, or is it something you and Patrick talked about from day one? Tell us how that evolved and why this stuff's so important.
So as we have been building our firm and finding, new innovative ways to do things, we've found that we've had to go outside of the legal world a little bit. And so we, in some ways, run our office like a tech company and kind of look to a lot of the innovative people we know. And really, every company out there has values. Most of the better, well-run companies have identified those values, but very few law firms have. And as we were meeting with people like Avo or Clio and seeing, the way they have their values displayed and part of their everyday conversation, we realized we needed something like that. Because at the end of the day, the way I explain it to attorneys is, why should clients hire you over someone else? And if it's because you think you're the best attorney, I hate to tell you, you're wrong. But no one out there is the best attorney in their practice area. You can't be. What real reason clients are coming to you is because they have some connection to you, or the reason they should be coming to you is because they have a connection to you. And our values help us identify what that is to a client. Here's who we are that no other firm is. Here's what we're going to do that no other firm is going to do.
And you guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys even have them up on a wall in your firm, right?
Several walls, actually. So we have, one of the people in our office loves art, and one of our core values is doing what we love. So we encouraged her to do the artwork for our values. And so she did that, and we made giant posters, one for every value, and then a couple that have all 7 values listed on them. And those are up all over the office. There's one right at the entryway, so everyone who steps in our door sees it. There's one in our main conference room, so we can kind of be reminded of it and have conversations about it. And then the rest are stationed all over the office. And every month we pull one out and set it on, a tripod out in the middle of the floor where everyone has to see it and walk by it and kind of be confronted by it every day that month.
So since you have them so prominently displayed, how do you go about not having them become noise or just things that you see? What are the things that you do on a daily basis to kind of keep the values ever present as the cultural ambassador?
So that's actually a fight that I go through, and I'll tell you, I don't have the best answer. I have answers that I'm working on, and every day, every week, every month, I adjust that a little bit, what I'm doing. Right now, there are a few things. Within the office on encouraging communication, we have a core value of the month where we take 1 month and focus on this core value. And so our social media posts, a lot of them are about that. In office conversations and meetings, I'll bring it up and remind people to be thinking about this value and nominating their peers for stories they see or hear of their peers doing in the office, something that fits into that value really well. Right now, the value we're focusing on is relentless, persistent, and self-motivated. So a couple hours ago, I actually nominated one of my coworkers who just has been doing a phenomenal job for her clients consistently, and they love her because they say, she never stops fighting. And that to me is exactly what that value is about. So I nominated her, and I let everyone know that I'd made a nomination to kind of remind people that this is something we need to think about every single day. And I also try to kind of remind people and encourage people when they come to me with ideas or thoughts, or when I'm in meetings with them, that these need to be part of our everyday conversations. I tell people, if you want to take a case to Patrick, or an idea to Patrick, don't tell him, hey, here's what it means for the firm money. Tell him, here's how it ties into our values. Say this idea helps fit these core values. And if you can tie it to the core values, he's going to be supportive of these ideas, right? Because that's how we really sell anything. So it's an ongoing process of me mostly just reminding people and telling them. And part of it is, we have a ceremony every month when we announce who won the core value of the last month, and we set out the new one, and there's a bit of a presentation and pomp and circumstance to it to make it, to break that idea of it just being, background noise. And then there's also a side of when we're working with our clients where, again, with our social media, we promote it. But then I also encourage people and give examples to people of how to use this when communicating with clients. And that's so whenever you talk to a client or, are setting expectations with someone, bring up these values. And I remind people to do that. But there's no great system outside of just having someone in charge of reminding everyone to talk about core values. And if you do that, momentum gets built up a little bit.
Yeah. And you mentioned one of the questions we get all the time from lawyers is, how should I use social media? What should I be posting? And we see various degrees of marketiness and spamminess and salesiness. We'll make sure in the show notes to include links to your social media profiles because you guys do such a fantastic job. Particularly in Instagram comes to mind of highlighting your values. And for listeners, what better way to give your next client a sense of what it's going to be like to work with you, why you do, what you stand for, than to be communicating to your audience through your core values, right?
Absolutely. And it really encourages kind of community with the clients we have and the people we interact with on a regular basis around our social media presence when we give them something to talk about. And also it helps kind of build the conversation when it's not just our top office talking about it, but clients talking about it and people who've known us from other previous claims talking about it. One of my favorite examples is I believe it was when we had trustworthy as our core value of the month. We did a post on Facebook about the winner of that value and put it up there. And that day, his clients were so happy to see that he'd won this award that they started writing poems to him and poems about what an awesome, trustworthy attorney he was and posting those on Facebook. And so all this is now blowing up and, we've done nothing except post a quick picture, right?
Right.
So that's great.
That is so incredible. Oh my gosh. Poems, clients writing poems and posting them. Like, what better endorsement for your law firm or for that particular lawyer? I mean, come on, people.
Yeah, that was really great. And just, the fact that it focuses around a value too, it's something we're saying that matters to us. So whenever you can encourage conversation around that, outside of the office, that's really important.
So you've kind of mentioned a couple of your values. Are there any other ones that you can kind of call out that come to mind that have been really transformational or that have helped in the client development or kind of marketing vein of things?
I will say all of them help in that. One big one that comes to my mind is one of our, first value that comes up is creative, innovative, and adaptable. And we take that approach with how we reach out to people is that, what are we going to do that no other firm's going to do? Well, we're going to be creative, innovative, and adaptable. We're going to come up with new ideas to help people. And we do things like on our website now, we have a calculator that allows people to estimate the value of their case. We just built a chatbot with Tom Martin at LawDroid that, guides them through a workers' compensation case. These are the kind of creative things that we like to do. But we also do it on an individual case-by-case basis. We just argued a case last week before the Supreme Court because we took up a unique argument and pushed hard for that, on an innovative and adaptable style on these things. Another one is doing the right thing. This one is kind of key is, we don't look at cases based on what money's coming in. We look on cases on the basis of how can we help this person. And one really good example of that is I had a case early on when I was at this firm for about 3 months that I took to Patrick, my boss's office, and said, hey, I really want to take this case up to trial. We're not going to win. And even if we win, there's really no money in it for it, but I want to do this. And he said, well, why do you want to do it? And I explained to him, well, I think I'm right and it's the right thing to do. And he said, great. Let me know if you need any help. And I ended up winning the case. It was great.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Team player is another big one of our values. Most people hire an attorney and or a firm and they hire really a specific attorney and they don't know who they're interacting with. At our office, we push pretty heavily that anyone can pick up any case and see what's going on with it and be able to help out with that case. And we meet on a regular basis to talk about specific cases. In fact, when I'm done with this podcast, I'm going to be meeting with one of the paralegals in the office to workshop a couple of cases together because we believe that the team is stronger than anything else. And then I mentioned relentless, persistent, self-motivated. I mentioned do what we love as one of our core values because it's a lot easier to show up to work if you do what you love. And then the last one is that we are unique, diverse, authentic, real people. And that one I think is really important when it comes to like a client acquisition point in time. When our advertising, whether it's on the radio or social media, whatever we're sending out there, it needs to not be some firm saying, hire me. It needs to be us showing our authentic, real selves. And clients respond to that because they see someone they can connect with, or they see someone they don't connect with and they don't hire us, which is good for everyone involved, right? And I, make that kind of a key when I talk to people and I approach potential clients. I be myself around them. I let them see who I am because these are people dealing with the worst things in their lives with tragic injuries. And they are coming to me and I'm asking them to be vulnerable with me and to be open with me. And I don't believe I have any right to do that unless I'm going to be my authentic, real self with them.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I notice when I look at going back to your Palace Law social media or each of your attorneys at your firm individually, or just the website and what the firm looks like in itself, because each one of you kind of is able to show your own unique personality and unique selves. And it's really cool that Patrick has set up a firm where it's not just you being a lawyer, you're a human being and you're a person and you have other interests outside of lawyering. And you're able to express those and not just have to be serious lawyer all the time.
Yeah, it's really important for, us to enjoy the work we do and stay here. It's hard to build a firm around an idea and keep people there and have, core values that are integral to that if you have people leaving all the time. And so being able to be yourself and doing what you love is really important for building a community within a firm and getting people who are going to stay here and getting clients who are going to come to us and stay with us because they feel like they can be themselves whenever they call me. It's always funny the first time a client, curses on the phone with me, they'll say, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm like, it's okay. You can be yourself. And they just feel relieved, even when it's something little like that. And it's really important to have that as, the value in the community you have to work with as a lawyer.
So slightly less skeptical lawyer now. So I'm starting to buy in. I'm getting persuaded that we should be having these core values and they can play a big role in how people think about us and how we work with clients. How do I get started? What was your process, or what kind of guidance do you have for lawyers that might be interested in kind of doing an exercise to discover their core values, at least as a starting point? Do you have any books or processes, or how did that work for you?
So start by talking to people that have core values and see what theirs are and get ideas because, it'd be hard to sit in a room and just kind of make this stuff up. And what happened at our office is the management team, after doing that a little bit, got together and sat down and tried to identify what the values of our firm were, especially those they wanted to highlight. Because, and this is an important thing, you cannot prescribe values to your firm. That will never work because you can't change people or force them to be something. You have to identify what the values are in the firm that you have. And you can make adjustments and try to highlight specific things. But if you're just trying to say, this is now our value, unless you have a firm built around that, it's not going to really work. So go through and identify what it is that matters to you and why you think you as a firm need to exist instead of just some other firm that does the same stuff. And this is, the selling point as well, is why are you unique? Why does the world need your law firm in this space? And that's when people start thinking about it, and they'll always answer and they'll say things like, well, I really care about people. And if you delve into that, it means, well, I care about their whole person. So my value is not just providing legal advice, it's providing life advice. And you can find that by just kind of identifying what matters to you and what makes you unique. And that's whether you are a solo attorney or, a large firm. And another thing to do is look at your mission as you're, starting this process, which is separate from your core values, but is also really important. And it's, what do you want to do? Now that you are an attorney, now that you have a law firm, what do you want to do? In our office, our mission is to help the injured in every community. So our values, we believe help us achieve that. And every decision we make is to try to help the injured in every community. That's the goal. And our values are part of that.
So we talk some about not only having your marketing plan or client development in place, but then narrowing that down in order to get the kind of clients that you want. So I know when we talked about how values come into play at Palace Law a few weeks ago, you said that you go over, or the attorney goes over, the core values with a potential client or current client when they meet with them. You guys let them know, hey, this is what we're all about. So how do you use that as part of your intake process or as part of your client development process for getting things started?
So most of the new clients we have come into our office to have a first meeting with us before they decide to hire us. And, like I said, when they come into the office, on the wall in the waiting room is all of our values. And then usually we go into the big conference room where they're all up on the wall again. And it's helpful because it brings that presence sense of mind. And usually what will happen is these values will start to come up a little bit when they start asking me what you're going to do. One of the most common examples for me is the question I hate getting asked, but I'm asked by a lot of people is, should I hire an attorney? What I always tell people is, I don't want to answer that question. And here's why. And I point to the wall and I say, one of our values here is being trustworthy. And if I answer that question and you make a decision based on that, you're never going to trust me because I'm the one telling you to hire an attorney. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you what I will do for you. And I'll go through, with our values on here are the things that I'm going to do for you. And then I'll step out of the room and you can decide. And every time I've done this, everyone has decided to hire me because they see that I am being trustworthy and I'm being open with them and I demonstrate what I'm going to do for them. I don't try to hide, oh, it's a secret how we handle this case. I'm upfront with them and tell them, here are the steps I'm going to take in your case to try to get you to the result. That builds trust right away. Another great example of it where it can kind of come up is setting expectations, which is usually the end of these meetings when, you've got a client who wants to hire you, but you need to make sure they understand what you're going to do. Because the number one complaint that every attorney gets is lack of communication or clients not understanding what's going on in their case. So it's really important to set expectations. And talking about core values is a way to do that because it tells them what you're going to do, what your focus is going to be on their case. So one example is I had a client who came to me and he had fired 2 previous attorneys. So I was a little bit concerned about this. And in the interest of being trustworthy, when we got to the end of the appointment, I just asked him and I said, okay, tell me, why did you fire your 2 previous attorneys? And it was, lack of communication. He didn't know what was going on. And I said, okay, I'm going to tell you what I do. And I need you to tell me if that fits with your values as well, because, we're a team player. We're self-motivated people. We do what we love, but I'm not going to answer the phone every time you call me. In fact, most of the time you call me, I won't answer the phone and I'll call you back later that same day because I have times that I do things so that I can be efficient. And I kind of explained what my process is and talked to him about all the values and told him what the limitations are. This is my focus. We went all through all that and had a very long conversation about it. And he decided that, knowing that I wasn't going to be communicating all day, every day with him, he still wanted to hire me. And it's turned out that every time I do talk to him, he thanks me for how great I've been with communication and how great I am about keeping me up to date on things. And he's written a couple reviews for us online that are really nice. So setting the expectations with what your values are and what matters to you as a firm is really important because, it'll happen that someone looks at this and say, well, I don't really want, a team addressing my case. I don't want a team player. I want just you to hire my case. And I would have to tell them, okay, that's not what I'm going to do. And it's okay if you don't want to hire me because of that. Here's where I think the value of being a team player is. But if you want just one person who's the only concern of yours, I'm not the right firm for you because we work as a team.
It's such a good point. And, this theme comes up a lot in our conversations, this idea of setting expectations with clients. And just for some context, I'm sure you're familiar with a lot of your competitor personal injury lawyers that are doing, they're publicizing and marketing through giant verdicts and outcomes and settlements. And, that's setting expectation too. And it's such an interesting juxtaposition to think, again, you just gave us a great example of someone that was working with somebody else. And, my hunch is that they were persuaded previously by some kind of outcome specific thing, and they end up being unhappy with it because so many times, especially when you're talking about personal injury, the client doesn't really know what a good outcome is at the beginning, and so the lawyer starts to set that. Versus if you set it in conjunction with your values, you're laying those expectations out, and then as long as you're living those values, it's going to, there's no question. They know exactly what to expect right from the beginning.
Absolutely. And we definitely do some marketing based on data that we have in cases. We run, as you guys know, a lot of data in this office to track results and track how to better manage cases. So we do some advertising on that. But at the end of the day, when someone comes into our office and they ask me, am I going to get this same result? I'm not going to say yes, ever. I'm going to say, no, here's what I'm going to do for your specific case. Here's what it'll take to get us to this result. And I walk them through that because it's important, to set expectations. And with the values, it is really nice because as long as you're living up to the values, which you should do anyway, the expectation is met. And it really helps with the kind of client complaints of, unhappy with the lack of communication. If you can tell them, hey, being communicative is not necessarily one of the values we have here at the office. Being trustworthy is, and letting clients trust us and being responsive is, but it's not that we're going to call you every day to update you on your case or call you every week to update you on your case. It's that we're going to fight hard, be self-motivated, be trustworthy, be creative, be finding new ways, and we're going to do the right thing. And there is a distinction there, and it's important for our clients to understand that. That's kind of why I love having the values up in the conference room where clients have to see it as they're talking to me about this entire process, because undoubtedly they always ask about it if I don't bring it up first.
So being transparent and being upfront and honest about all of the expectations that you can set for what the outcome could possibly be, there are times when people, as you kind of alluded to, people are still upset or things don't happen the way they want. So with Palace Law values in mind, how do you guys handle those not so great outcomes or the times when a client maybe isn't delighted at the end of the day?
Yeah, that's tough. And I wish I could say we've avoided that, but it still happens because we are a large law firm representing a lot of people. So there are, of course, people that get angry with us. And I think one of the most important things there is the fact that we are allowed to be authentic, real people. We are allowed to be upset. I've gone into people's offices just to complain about a case before and be upset. And that's considered productive because that's us being ourselves and it helps us kind of refocus ourselves. But really what it comes down to is, are we doing what we love? Because if you are, and that is really the focus of whatever you're doing, whether you are at the reception desk taking calls from people who are annoyed all day long or rerouting calls, whether you're on the administrative side of things where you're just processing checks, what matters is that if you're doing what you love, then when clients are complaining, you're able to kind of let them complain because they need that. And the right thing to do in that situation is not to get upset back and not to fight with them. If you believe in doing the right thing, you get to just kind of let them vent a little bit. And I've had it happen more times than I would like to admit, where a client calls me and, vents and vents and vents. And I just kind of have to sit there and listen to it and take it because things aren't going the way they're supposed to. But at the end of the day, I love the work that I do. And I think that shines through with the clients and we make it clear to them. And they notice. One example I can give is I had a client who the first time he had to pay for anything on a case called me and immediately said, well, I don't want you to work on my case anymore. And I said, that's okay. Send me a letter. We'll withdraw from your case. Not a problem. And I was just open with him and, did the right thing and didn't fight with him about it. And he called me back about 10 minutes later and said, hey, I'm really sorry, and apologized to me and, talked to me again because I was doing the right thing and because I was open with him and he felt like he could be his authentic, real self with me. And he and I ended up having a great relationship that is still ongoing because I didn't fight back. I just did the right thing and let him vent. So there's no way to avoid people venting with you. But if you have your values, if you have the things you can fall back on that matter to you, and it's not clients being happy, then no matter what the clients are doing, you can look back and say, okay, am I following what I'm supposed to do? And if I, messed up and was untrustworthy, that's on me and I should feel bad about that. But if I was trustworthy the entire time and clients are still getting upset with me, I know that I'm doing the right thing no matter what. Another good example is, we actually have clients sometimes get a little upset with us because we're trustworthy. There's always the bad news you have to give to clients. Those conversations are really hard, but when one of your core values is trustworthy, you can call them and say, hey, I promised you at the very beginning of this case, I was going to be open with you. I was going to be trustworthy to you. I'm going to have to tell you something that you're not going to like to hear, but Not doing so would be a disservice to you and would be the wrong thing to do. So let's talk about this. And I forget to do that sometimes, but when I do that, I haven't had a client get mad at me before. I've had them get upset and unhappy, but never mad at me for delivering the bad news when I, preface it the right way and when they understand what our values are at the very beginning.
Excellent.
I was going to ask you, Gyi, if you are, as the cynic here, the resident cynic, if you're convinced yet.
Well, I'm getting persuaded gradually, but I would bring some other questions to mind. So slight change gear. So I'm buying in. I've explored my values. I've defined them. And you mentioned some of this earlier, Jordan, and I kind of wanted to dive deeper into this. But what tactically can I do to highlight how these values work at our firm to communicate those to the audience? So like I said, I think your social media profiles are a really great example of that. What other things are you guys doing at your firm to communicate that outwardly to your next clients?
Yeah, I mean, our social media presence is one, but really in any advertising that we do, even if it's not always talked about explicitly, Patrick is usually the voice of these things, is thinking about what our values are and are we offering this and demonstrating that to clients. So I go back to, again, this is, your core values are the reason someone should hire you instead of some other firm where the attorneys are going to be equally good. And so one good example in our office is creative, innovative, and adaptable. A lot of the things we push out explain to clients how we are doing something creative and different to approach their case. So we're building a chatbot to allow them for free to get all the guidance they need. We're building a little calculator to let them know how much their case might be worth, because that's the question everyone has, right? What is my case worth? And that's the question no attorney really wants to answer. And so we built a calculator that just kind of tells them that, because that's the creative, innovative, adaptable thing to do. And so even though he's not talking about, hey, this is our value, he makes sure that anything that goes out of this office towards an audience represents those values and demonstrates those values. Another example is everyone who comes to our office has a free consultation, which is, very common in the workers' compensation industry. But another one of our rules, if someone comes into this office, and I think I mentioned this earlier, is we tell them everything we intend to do on their case. So there's no like, hey, hire me, I'll work on this case, I'll try to get you to the best result. It's hire me, tomorrow I'm going to do this. Next week, I'm going to do these 2 things. In the next month, I'm going to do these 4 things. And within, 6 months or a year, I plan to have this case closed with X result for you based on these steps. And that's that kind of trustworthy doing the right thing. That's the message that goes out there. So, make sure that you're going back to the drawing board on all of the processes you have in your office and asking, do they fit? And hopefully if you're a firm that's, going back and investigating your core values and kind of trying to start using this as a tool, you are also a firm that is going back and looking for other new ways to improve your office or your client intake. And that's a great opportunity to start with the core values. And then as I tell people, when they pitch ideas to the management team or to Patrick, to pitch them based on the values, when you're thinking up something new, ask yourself, how does it touch on these values? So if you want to put up a new billboard ad or a radio ad or a TV ad, ask yourself, does this photo, does this message demonstrate my core values, or does it just demonstrate any other firm? And that's where it gets really fun, is because you'll start to see, what is unique about your firm. There's another good example of this that's often seen on social media is My Modern Law is another great law firm. And you can tell in a lot of their advertising, what they believe in. They do a lot of family law stuff, and they do a lot of resources to help build and strengthen families. Not just like, let us help you when your family's broken, but let us help you keep that strength. And that's where you can really see values shining through. And that's what, makes that firm look different than a lot of other firms you see online all the time.
Yeah. And I think, and it was, I put you on the spot there, and I think that you articulated it well. I would encourage listeners, though, to go check out what Palace Law is doing, both on social media, but Jordan mentioned as well, some of the radio spots they do. Well, in the radio, it's auditory, but I was going to say it's a visual experience to see some of it, because you really need to be able to look at the creative, that the videos that they're putting out, the radio spots they're doing. It's a lot easier to understand how the values fit into that, into their messaging. So, my suggestion would be go to the website, check out their values, and then go watch Patrick talking in some of the local radio spots they do, and go watch some of their videos online. And you really can see that it's consistent throughout all the messaging they do. And I think that's really what's so important and what's so effective.
And that's actually something I didn't mention is that all of these are on our website, right? Like if you go to our team tab, it's not just a list of the attorneys. It's the attorneys. It's everyone who works here. There's an entire tab dedicated to our community work. And then there's an entire section that is just our core values. So anyone who's looking up attorneys, which every potential client that calls me ends up looking up my profile on the website sometimes while they're talking to me. But our core values are right on there as well. So they see them front and center and can, not just ask, okay, where's this guy from? Where did he go to law school? But they can see what matters to this attorney that I'm trying to hire. And that's really important because, more and more, and I'm sure you guys have talked about this before, everyone who is calling your office is looking you up online. I one time had a potential client talking to me on the phone, and all of a sudden he said, I really like your tie. And I was very down for a second. And I was like, wait, what? And he said, on your website, the tie you're wearing, it's really nice. And I said, oh, I had to kind of say, thank you. And I was
good. You're not staring at me through the window. Thank you.
But it's good, they're going to be looking you up. And so if you have values, let them see not just, where you went to law school and the awards you've gotten, let them see who you are. I think, there might be a reference to my love of breweries on my biography on the website, right? These are the things that clients connect with and decide they want to hire you instead of the other workers' comp attorney.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, you have the full team on the website, which is awesome because there are so many firm websites where it kind of just lists lawyers that are in the firm and maybe the paralegals. But when you're a client, you're going to be dealing with receptionists or just any number of other people in the firm. And so it's kind of nice to see all of the people that you could possibly be in contact with, because I know when I look at businesses, I don't just look at the, one person that I could potentially be dealing with. I kind of check out everyone that's around there and see who else I could interact with or who else I might know that's there.
Yeah, that really goes back to our team player value, right? We can't say we're team players and only talk about the attorneys. Everyone here matters. Our clients often interact with the receptionist more than me because they come in and they chat with her and I'm up in my office staring at computer screens all day.
Right.
All right, Gyi. Now, are you fully convinced?
I'm convinced. I think this was extremely useful for everyone. And I certainly encourage lawyers that haven't done the, at least the exercise of trying to explore their core values. One other, just for us personally in our kind of evolution of developing our mission, vision, values, I would recommend people check out the Culture Blueprint. I talk about that book a lot. Also Traction, discovery of core values is a big part of that process. But I think this is great. And like I said, go check out what Palace Law is doing on their website and around the web. And I think you'll really get a sense of how powerful weaving your core values into all of the messaging that you're presenting with both your existing clients and your next clients, and how powerful and effective that is to help people understand who you are, why you do what you do, and why you're the right lawyer for them.
Yeah, this has really inspired me, Jordan, I have to say, to rethink how we at Attorney Sync, because we do have very strong values and we are really committed to them. And we need to put it out more ourselves, just on the socials, and share with the world the things that we're setting out to accomplish every day as a marketing agency as well.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for having me.
So good to talk to you. And if you like Jordan and are excited to hear more about what Palace Law is doing, we will be speaking with the Patrick Palace in a few weeks as well.
And as always, if you're listening and you have a topic suggestion you'd like to hear covered, or you have a question, or you have feedback, please don't hesitate to contact us. We're always looking for new guests and new ideas. And it's really important that for this to remain valuable, that the audience participate and let us know what you want to hear. So thanks for listening. Thanks so much, Jordan. And thank you, Kelly Street.
Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, Gyi.
Thank you.